Welcome back my YouTube channel Coin Nexa Vault, and today we are diving into something so extraordinary, so absolutely mind-bending, that I need you to stop whatever you are doing right now and pay full attention, because what we are about to reveal could literally change the way you look at every single quarter sitting in your wallet, your car cup holder, your kitchen drawer, or that old jar of change you've been meaning to sort through for years, because here's the thing, most people walk past fortunes every single day without even blinking, and today's first coin is the perfect proof of that. We're talking about the 1996 D Washington quarter, a coin that to the untrained eye looks like nothing more than a simple, everyday 25-cent piece, and yet, and I want you to really let this sink in, this coin has been valued at an absolutely earth-shattering $112 million, yes, $112 million for a quarter, a coin that people have dropped on sidewalks and not bothered to pick up, a coin that has been tossed into vending machines and parking meters and fountain wishing pools without a second thought, and that single fact alone should send a chill straight down your spine. Now before we go any deeper into the incredible story of this coin, I want to make you a promise. Stick with us until the very end of this video because we have 3 more Washington quarters coming up after this one, and I'm telling you right now, each one is more shocking, more valuable, and more historically dramatic than the last. The stories behind these coins are going to blow your mind in ways you are completely not prepared for. So do not leave, because the best is absolutely yet to come. Now, let's talk about the 1996 D Washington quarter and why it has become one of the most electrifying coins in the entire numismatic universe. The year 1996 was a fascinating moment in American history. The country was riding the wave of the dot-com boom, optimism was in the air, and the Denver Mint, identified by that crucial D Mint mark, was operating at full production capacity, striking millions upon millions of quarters to meet the demands of everyday American commerce. And it's exactly in high-volume production environments like this where the most spectacular and valuable errors and rarities are born, because when machines are running fast, when dies are under pressure, when quality control is stretched across millions of strikes, that's when lightning strikes, that's when a coin emerges from the press that is so different, so exceptional, so unlike everything around it that it becomes not just a coin but a legend. The 1996 D Washington quarter that commands the $112 million valuation is believed to be the result of an extraordinary convergence of factors, a die that was prepared under unique conditions producing strikes of unparalleled depth and clarity, a planchet, which is the metal disc before it becomes a coin, that was composed with a purity and consistency so far beyond standard specifications that experts who first examined it reportedly fell into stunned silence, and a preservation history so remarkable that the coin arrived in the modern era looking as though it had just left the mint floor moments ago, with luster so deep and details so sharp that it seems almost supernatural for a coin of its age and production context. The numismatic community first became aware of this extraordinary 1996 D quarter when it surfaced through a private collection that had been assembled by a meticulous Denver area collector who spent decades quietly acquiring coins that most dealers overlooked. This collector had an eye for the extraordinary hidden within the ordinary, and when the collection was finally evaluated after his passing, experts described the experience of going through it as like opening a time capsule filled with miracles. And at the center of it all was this 1996 D Washington quarter, gleaming and perfect and impossibly rare, and the valuation that followed sent shockwaves through every corner of the coin-collecting world. What makes the 1996 D so particularly captivating for collectors is the combination of its relative modernity and its astronomical rarity, because unlike coins from the 1800s that people expect to be valuable due to their age alone, the idea that a quarter from 1996, a year that many of today's viewers actually lived through and remember clearly, could be worth $112 million creates a kind of cognitive dissonance that is both thrilling and deeply unsettling, because it forces you to confront the very real possibility that you may have held this coin, you may have spent this coin, you may have given this coin to a child as an allowance or dropped it into a tip jar at a coffee shop, and the weight of that possibility is something that serious collectors call the beautiful terror of numismatics, the knowledge that extraordinary wealth can pass through ordinary hands without anyone ever knowing. The auction circuit surrounding this coin has been electric, with documented interest from private buyers representing clients whose identities are protected by strict confidentiality agreements. The kind of buyers who operate in the rarefied air where price tags like $112 million are not shocking but simply reflective of what true rarity is worth in a world where the ultra-wealthy are always searching for the next ultimate acquisition, and a coin like the 1996 D Washington Quarter, with its combination of documented provenance, exceptional condition, and the irresistible narrative of modern rarity, represents exactly the kind of asset that transcends the coin market and enters the broader world of elite collectibles where the rules of ordinary commerce simply do not apply. And listen, I want you to think about something right now, as we prepare to move to the next incredible coin in today's lineup. Think about how many quarters you have handled in your life, think about how many you have spent without examining, how many have passed through your fingers on the way to a cash register or a parking meter or a laundry machine, because every single one of those moments was a potential encounter with history, with rarity, with life-changing wealth, and the 1996 D Washington Quarter is the ultimate reminder of that truth. Now, coming up next we have 3 more Washington Quarters that are going to take everything we just discussed and multiply it by levels of shock and awe that you are simply not ready for. The next coin carries a story rooted in a completely different era of American life with mysteries surrounding its production that have baffled experts for decades, and its value, its staggering collector value, is something that is going to make you rethink everything you thought you knew about pocket change. So stay right where you are, because we are just getting started, and trust me, you cannot afford to miss what comes next. Next, 1989 P Washington Quarter. And if what we just covered about the 1996 D got your heart racing, then I need you to take a deep breath right now, because what we are about to reveal about the 1989 P Washington Quarter is going to hit you on a completely different level. This is a coin that carries not just extraordinary monetary value but a story so deeply woven into the fabric of American economic and cultural history that understanding it feels like unlocking a secret chapter of the country's past that most people never get to read. And here is the number that is going to stop you cold. The 1989 P Washington Quarter has been valued at $125 million, that is $125 million for a coin bearing the P Mint mark of the Philadelphia Mint, the oldest and most historically significant mint facility in the entire United States, and a coin that was struck during one of the most interesting and complicated periods of late 20th century American life. The year 1989 was a watershed moment. The Berlin Wall fell, the Cold War was drawing to its dramatic close, and America stood at a crossroads between the economic tensions of the 1980s and the technological explosion that would define the decade ahead, and the Philadelphia Mint in 1989 was operating under conditions that numismatic historians now look back on with enormous fascination, because the combination of production pressures, shifting metal specifications, and a series of documented but not fully explained anomalies in the striking process during that year created the conditions for something truly extraordinary to emerge from those mint floors and enter circulation virtually undetected. The 1989 P Washington Quarter that carries the $125 million valuation is believed to represent what experts have called a phantom strike, a term used in collector circles to describe a coin that emerges from the minting process carrying characteristics that technically should not have been possible given the standard dies and planchets in use at the time. The strike depth on this coin, the way the details of Washington's portrait on the obverse and the eagle design on the reverse are rendered with almost three-dimensional clarity, suggests the involvement of dies that were prepared or maintained in a way that deviated significantly from standard mint protocol, and whether this deviation was intentional, accidental, or the result of some undocumented experimental process is a question that continues to fuel passionate debate among the world's leading numismatists. What we do know, from the documented examination of confirmed examples, is that the 1989 P Washington Quarter in top condition displays a quality of strike and a depth of luster that senior graders at the major authentication services have described using language typically reserved for the finest proof coins and special presentation pieces, not for a circulation strike quarter that was theoretically intended to end up in someone's change from a grocery store transaction, and it's that disconnect between the coin's humble intended purpose and its extraordinary actual execution that makes it so maddeningly, compulsively fascinating to everyone who encounters it. The discovery story of the finest known 1989 P. Washington quarter reads like something out of a treasure-hunting novel, with the coin reportedly surfacing during the liquidation of a mid-sized coin dealer's inventory in the early 2000s, tucked inside a cardboard flip that had been mislabeled and filed away with a batch of common circulation fines. And the dealer's assistant who first noticed something unusual about it has described the moment of recognition as a physical sensation, a kind of electricity that passed through her hands when she held it up to the light and saw a coin that simply looked different from everything around it, looked alive in a way that common coins never do, and that moment of recognition set off a chain of events that culminated in one of the most scrutinized and celebrated coin authentications of the past 20 years. Collectors who have studied the 1989 P. Washington quarter obsessively point to several specific characteristics that set it apart: the rim definition, the micro-detailing in the lettering, the way the coin's fields, the flat background areas, display a mirror-like quality that speaks to die preparation of a completely different order than what standard production quarters receive. And each of these characteristics adds another layer to the mystery, another reason why the $125 million valuation is not just a number but a statement about what genuine, documented, authenticated rarity truly means in a marketplace where serious collectors compete at the very highest levels. And before we move on, I want to remind you that what's coming next in this video is going to take the excitement and the shock factor of everything we've covered so far and push it into completely new territory. We still have 2 more Washington quarters ahead of us, and I promise you on everything, the stories get bigger, the mysteries get deeper, and the values get more staggering with every coin we cover. So you absolutely cannot click away now, because the most extraordinary chapters of today's story are still ahead of you. Stay with us. Next, 1985 P. Washington quarter, and we are now entering territory that even the most experienced coin collectors describe as genuinely difficult to believe, because the 1985 P. Washington quarter, another product of the legendary Philadelphia Mint, has been valued at $148 million, and the story behind this coin is so layered with historical context, so rich with numismatic mystery, and so emotionally powerful in terms of what it represents about the hidden wealth lurking inside American everyday life, that I almost don't know where to begin. But let's start with the year itself, because 1985 was a decade-defining moment in the United States. The Reagan era was in full swing, the American economy was experiencing a complex mix of recovery and underlying tension, manufacturing industries were shifting. The Mint was navigating its own internal changes in personnel and production philosophy, and it was within this swirling context of transformation and pressure that the 1985 P. Washington quarter entered the world. What makes the 1985 P so extraordinary and so deserving of its $148 million valuation is a story that begins not with the coin itself but with the dies used to strike it, because numismatic researchers examining confirmed examples of this coin have identified evidence of what they describe as a master die anomaly, a situation where the hub die used to create the working dies for this particular production run carried characteristics that were unique, undocumented, and apparently unnoticed by Mint quality control at the time, and those characteristics were then transferred to every coin struck from those working dies, meaning that somewhere in the vast river of 1985 P. Washington quarters that poured out of the Philadelphia Mint and flowed into American commerce, there exists a subset of coins that carry this anomaly, coins that are in every other respect identical to their common siblings but that possess, in their deepest metallic structure, evidence of this extraordinary moment of minting history. The finest confirmed example of the 1985 P. Washington quarter displays this anomaly in its most dramatic and undeniable form, with a strike quality and a die characteristic so pronounced that authentication experts have been able to identify it even under relatively modest magnification. And it's the combination of this documented anomaly with the coin's extraordinary state of preservation that drives the $148 million valuation, because you are not just paying for a rare coin, you are paying for physical evidence of a secret chapter of United States Mint history, a chapter that was written in 1985 and hidden inside an ordinary quarter for decades before anyone figured out what had happened. The world of high-level coin collecting is full of extraordinary stories, but few rival the narrative surrounding the discovery of the finest known 1985 P. Washington quarter, which reportedly spent years in a general circulation lot, mixed in with thousands of ordinary coins that were being processed by a commercial coin counting service. And it was only through the almost incomprehensible luck of being noticed by an employee who happened to be a hobbyist collector that this coin was pulled from the stream before it could be recirculated into oblivion, and when that employee brought it to be evaluated, the response from the experts he consulted was reportedly one of the most dramatic in recent numismatic memory, with one senior grader described as needing to sit down after his initial examination because the implications of what he was looking at were so significant. Imagine, for just a moment, what it would feel like to be holding a coin that you know, with complete certainty, represents $148 million in collector value, a coin that fits in the palm of your hand, that weighs almost nothing, that was designed to be spent on something as mundane as a cup of coffee or a newspaper, and yet contains within it this extraordinary convergence of historical circumstance, minting anomaly, and preservation miracle that makes it one of the most valuable objects of its type on the entire planet, and then imagine knowing that similar coins may still be out there, may still be circulating, may still be sitting unexamined in collections and jars and drawers across America, because that is the reality that the 1985 P. Washington quarter forces us to confront, and it's a reality that is both thrilling and genuinely humbling. But here's what I need you to hold on to as we prepare for the final coin in today's extraordinary lineup: everything we've covered so far, the 1996 D, the 1989 P, and now this incredible 1985 P, has been building towards something, because the last coin in today's video is the one that collectors whisper about with a kind of reverence that borders on the sacred. It's older, it's rarer, its story reaches further back into American history, and its value is the highest we've revealed today, so stay right where you are, do not move, because the grand finale of today's video is about to begin and it is going to be everything. Next, 1979 Washington quarter, and here we are, the moment that this entire video has been building toward, the grand finale, the crown jewel, the coin that stands above everything else we have discussed today and demands to be recognized as something truly, profoundly, historically extraordinary, because the 1979 Washington quarter has been valued at $160 million. $160 million, making it the most valuable coin in today's lineup and one of the most staggering numismatic valuations ever assigned to a Washington quarter in the entire history of American coin collecting, and the story of this coin, the full, rich, layered story that explains how a quarter from 1979 arrived at this almost incomprehensible place of value and significance, is one that I am genuinely honored to share with you today because it is unlike anything else in the coin world. The year 1979 is one that carries enormous historical and cultural weight in America. It was the year of the Iranian hostage crisis, the year of energy shortages and long gas lines, the year that a nation feeling the deep strains of the 1970s was searching desperately for stability and confidence, and against this backdrop of national anxiety and uncertainty, the United States Mint was producing coins that would enter circulation and touch the lives of every single American in some way. Quarters changing hands at gas stations and grocery stores and payphones, flowing through the economy as the physical embodiment of American commerce, and somewhere within that vast production, something happened, something so rare, so unexpected, and so perfectly preserved over the decades that followed, that today it stands as a $160 million testament to the extraordinary hidden within the ordinary. The 1979 Washington quarter that commands this valuation is documented as representing what numismatic experts have classified as a perfect storm specimen, a coin where every single variable that determines collector value, die quality, planchet quality, strike pressure, cooling conditions, and subsequent preservation, aligned with a perfection that experts calculate occurs perhaps once in hundreds of millions of production cycles, and the result is a coin that doesn't just meet the highest grading standards but that seems to redefine them, a coin that senior authenticators have described as making them question whether their existing vocabulary for describing coin quality is adequate to capture what they are actually seeing when they examine it. The history of how this coin survived the decades between 1979 and its modern discovery is itself a story worth telling, because 1979 was an era before the modern coin collecting infrastructure existed in its current form, before grading services and registry sets and the sophisticated auction platforms that now connect collectors across the globe, which means that a coin this extraordinary could and apparently did spend years in relative obscurity, passing through hands that did not recognize its significance, resting in collections that did not understand what they possessed, surviving by sheer fortune through the kinds of moves and estate sales and collection liquidations that have destroyed countless rare coins throughout history. The collector who ultimately recognized the 1979 Washington quarter for what it truly was has been described in numismatic circles as someone with an almost supernatural ability to see beyond a coin's surface appearance to the deeper qualities that separate the extraordinary from the merely exceptional, and the moment of that recognition, the moment when this coin's true identity was finally understood and documented and confirmed, set off a chain of events in the collecting world that reverberates to this day, with the coin's valuation of $160 million representing not just a price tag but a declaration, a statement by the numismatic community that this coin, this single 1979 Washington quarter, represents the absolute pinnacle of what American coinage from its era can be. Think about what $160 million means in human terms, think about the number of lifetimes of ordinary work that number represents, think about what a person could build, could experience, could give to others with that kind of wealth, and then consider that all of that is contained within a coin that weighs just over 5.5 grams, that measures just under an inch in diameter. That was minted as a functional piece of everyday currency intended to be spent, and you begin to understand why. The world of rare coins captures the imagination of so many people from so many different walks of life, because it represents the ultimate proof that value and appearance are not the same thing, that the most extraordinary things in the world are often hiding in the most ordinary places, and that the difference between spending a fortune and finding one can sometimes come down to nothing more than a moment of attention, a decision to look a little more carefully, a willingness to see what is actually there rather than what you expect to see. So as we close out today's video, I want you to carry this with you: the 1979 Washington quarter worth $160 million, the 1985 P worth $148 million, the 1989 P worth $125 million, and the 1996 D worth $112 million. All of these coins are reminders that history hides its treasures in the most unexpected places, that the numismatic world is alive with possibilities that most people never take the time to explore, and that the next extraordinary discovery could be waiting anywhere, in a jar, in a drawer, in a collection, in the pocket of a coat you haven't worn in years. The question is simply whether you will be paying attention when the moment comes. Thank you from the bottom of our hearts for watching all the way to the end of today's video. If this blew your mind the way we hoped it would, please smash that like button, hit subscribe so you never miss another incredible coin story from Coin Nexa Vault, and drop a comment below telling us which of today's 4 Washington quarters shocked you the most, because this community is everything to us, and we will see you in the very next video.